now we're going to go briefly on to the thyroid, because I think a hormonal health talk is incomplete without a little bit of a touch on the thyroid gland. Now, when your thyroid stops working, you can develop hypothyroidism, which is usually treated with thyroid hormone supplements. But if your body creates antibodies against the thyroid, then you can also develop something called thyroiditis, which is a form of inflammation. And it's often called Hashimoto's, again, which results in imbalances to the metabolism and the way your body's functioning. So if your thyroid is overactive, you might have anxiety or excess heat or a rapid pulse. And too low in function, you might feel cold, you might be gaining weight, you might have some dry skin. And these are all examples of potential symptoms. And what you might notice with your doctor is that when your thyroid is not making enough thyroid hormone, then your thyroid stimulating hormone level rises. And this is the pituitary gland in the brain trying to stimulate the thyroid to make more hormone. And what's one of the main reasons for thyroid dysfunction around the world? Well, I think my slide kind of gives it away. It's iodine deficiency. So iodine is crucial for thyroid function, but many soils are depleted from this vital mineral. For example, in some places of the world, a potato would contain plenty of iodine, but in others, if the soil is not great quality, there are going to be negligible amounts of iodine within that potato. So in the US, your salt is iodized, which does make deficiency a bit more rare. That's not the case in the UK. We tend to get iodine from cow's milk, which is used in the sanitization of milk storage units, and therefore it's given to the feed of the cows as well that provide milk. But what I would say is, for those of you who are hoping to improve your blood pressure, you don't necessarily want to be having a lot of salt in your meals. So I would suggest perhaps going for low salt options, which I think are still fortified with iodine. And also in the UK, we have many fortified plant milks that now contain iodine, which may also be true in the US. So make sure that you look at the side of the packet if you're buying a plant milk to see if it is fortified with iodine. Seaweed is another great natural source of iodine. In fact, I like to think of seaweed as sea plants because they provide us with some vital nutrients, and we don't like to think of weeds. I do think that they deserve our respect because sea plants are a sustainable and healthy way to get a lot of different nutrients that we might miss out on. Now that we're living with the consequences of overfishing and industrial toxin exposures in our oceans. And in fact, a typical sheet of dried nori that you might use for making sushi, or also just quite tasty as a snack in itself, contains about 40 micrograms of iodine. Now, remember, you shouldn't have too much iodine, just as you shouldn't have too little, just like Goldilocks. You don't want to have too much, which is why I would advise you not to consume kelp, or at least if you do, to be mindful that the amounts of iodine within it can vary quite wildly, and it can sometimes be very high in iodine. If you decide to make life simple and you're not sure where you're going to get your iodine from, you could take a non-seaweed or a non-sea plant iodine supplement. And I would go for one that contains no more than around 150 micrograms in the form of potassium iodide or potassium iodate. Another great mineral for thyroid function is selenium. Now, we do need iodine and selenium working together in that hormonal symphony to keep the thyroid happy. Now, what happens with selenium is it helps to protect the thyroid from oxidative stress by making an antioxidant called glutathione. And also selenium helps to activate thyroid hormone, converting T4 to T3 within the body. Now, as I mentioned earlier on in the talk, when we were talking about sperm health, you can find selenium in Brazil nuts. You don't need many, just one or two, but you can also find it in brown rice and whole grain spaghetti, pasta, beans, and seeds as well. Zinc helps to stimulate the production of thyroid hormone as well. And zinc can be found in seeds and nuts and beans and tofu, whole grains like brown rice. And to boost your uptake of zinc further, you can actually ferment these foods. So you can sprout or soak your beans to increase the amount of zinc that you that you absorb. Garlic can be added to your meals and, for example, to hummus or to rice, or to also boost your absorption of zinc. Now, when it comes to thyroid health in general, there's not much data on the specific benefits of a plant-based diet for thyroid function. Some epidemiological data does suggest that plant-based diets are associated with lower rates of hypothyroidism. And other research shows us how beneficial plant-based diets can be for generally reducing the risk of autoimmune diseases. What is absolutely clear, though, is that iodine levels must be adequate, or else the whole sort of hormone harmony will be off balance. And the body is therefore more susceptible to the effects of iodine blocking foods like soy and cruciferous vegetables. So just be aware that a lot of the healthy foods that you'll enjoy may reduce the amount of iodine that you absorb. Cooking can sort of deactivate the enzymes needed for this, but crucially, ensuring that you have enough iodine in your diet will be the most important thing you can do to ensure that you can use all of these plant compounds in the healthiest way. That's yes, I forgot to mention, make sure that you aim to eat all the vitamin-rich foods. So a multitude of fruits and veggies will give you plenty of things like vitamin C and beta carotene for vitamin A, vitamin B2, B3, B6. And it's all of these things in combination with appropriate levels of iron, zinc, selenium, and iodine that will help your thyroid to function well.